All right. Welcome to another stream. It's been a while, maybe not too long, but a few days. I think the last stream was on Saturday. So I had a 2-day break. I wanted to do some, resting during the weekend and enjoy some personal time with friends, family, and just stay away from all this. But yeah, I've had a good time resting, but yeah, let's get back into learning FastAPI. And the goal of me learning FastAPI is to build a backend for one of my dream projects using FastAPI. So let me get started. So today we shall be covering two things: cookie parameters and then header parameters. Okay, because I looked at both and I saw they were relatively short according to the table of contents. So I hope I'm actually right. So yeah, cookie parameters. So they're saying you can define cookie parameters the same way you define query and path parameters. This is interesting to know, and probably not even shocking, excuse me, because this is what I would expect uh, it to be like, okay? The way to add any parameter should be the same, whether it is a header parameter, a cookie parameter, a request body parameter, okay, path parameter, query parameter should all be very similar. And I'm very happy that it's the case. All right, so I want to just confirm my audio. Just a moment. So let me do this on this other screen, switch its network and refresh one more time. All right, looks good. So let's continue, okay? So they say the first thing is to import cookie. And you see here they have imported cookie from FastAPI. Of course, they're saying first import cookie, and this works in Python 3.10 and above. Okay, so we see they've imported annotated from typing. We already know what this is, what annotated does. And if you don't, check our previous streams, maybe the one where we dealt with annotation. Where was that the first stream or second stream? Here, Python types intro. Check that. It will have you covered. Our stream on that. And then, or you can just read the documentation. So annotated from typing, we have FastAPI and cookie imported from FastAPI. We have an instance of FastAPI into a variable called app. And then we have a path operation function, get items, okay? Then a mini path operation decorator, okay? Then this is the path operation function. And then it has one parameter called adds ID, okay? And it's been annotated, okay? Annotated with the type being a string, okay? So adds ID can be a string or none, but the default value is none, okay? This is one thing we should take note of. str or none, okay? A string or none, and default value is none, meaning it is optional to give us the adds ID cookie, okay? And then we have here the metadata, which is cookie imported from FastAPI. This simply tells FastAPI that adds ID is not a request body parameter, it's not a query parameter, it's not a path parameter, but a cookie parameter. Very simple. And maybe we can copy this and run it. Minimize the screen, get back to our usual place, paste the code. Maybe I can cancel one, clear my screen, and run FastAPI run dev. Come on. What is it? Not dev. Come on. I always forget this command, by the way. FastAPI dev main.py. Okay. And there we are. So if I go to the browser, it says not found. But what I need is to go to this endpoint. Okay. To that route. So I can come here and add it, okay? and you see we get adds ID null. Why? Because we have not sent any cookie. So this is normal, okay? Why? It says it can be default value is none. Okay, default value is none. So it's optional. And when it's optional, the value of none is still none. That's why we find here, we're getting null in the JSON response. So I'll click back here and we continue. So for those dealing with other versions and variants, we see that in Python 3.9, okay, the only difference in the code is that we have union, okay? Instead of this pipe to separate the two types, we have union, okay? So yeah, you can use union if you're in Python 3.9 and above, or those in Python 3.8. You can check out this Python 3.10 plus, but not using annotated. Okay. So they're saying prefer to use annotated version if possible, meaning use this. Okay. If possible. And I think in 1 or 2 streams ago, maybe 3 streams ago, they explained why annotated is very important. So you see here what they do. They simply say adds ID is a string or none, and they're saying the default value is cookie. Okay, and they're putting default none. Okay, but they're saying the best way, the tip is to use this because there are benefits that come along with this. And then 3.8 plus, again, we're seeing union and stuff like this, but they're saying prefer to use annotated version if possible. Okay. So yeah, we go with the recommendation. And this is what I'm learning using annotated. So after this, I'll go ahead and read this. It's saying declare cookie parameters. Okay, the first thing we did was to import cookie. All right, first thing always is to import. So we imported cookie, and now the next step is to declare the cookie parameter. So they're saying then declare the cookie parameters using the same structure as with path and query. You can define the default value as well as the extra validation or annotation parameters. Okay, so if we come here, we still declare the cookie inside here. Okay, so they mean by declaring, simply adding cookie. Okay, like this, the word cookie with parentheses after the comma. Okay, after the comma, you add the metadata. So cookie is a metadata just like query, just like path. And we know that cookie is simply a function. When you do this, cookie is simply a function which returns an instance of the class cookie, as simple as that. So ideally, it would be something like this. Somewhere in their code base, they have a class cookie, okay, like this. But for now, of course, I'll make it empty. Okay. Then they have another function saying define cookie like that. Okay. So, but here, what it does, it returns, okay, cookie. It returns this, okay. Maybe I can call this one cookie class to avoid confusion, cookie class. Then I do this, okay. So what we are importing is this, is a function. We're not importing the class. We're importing a function which returns an instance of the class. If you remember what they explained earlier. So let's continue. So import cookie. When you're done importing cookie, simply declare the cookie parameter. Like we've seen, then okay, we have some technical details here to discuss. They're saying cookie is a sister of class path and query. It also inherits from the same common param class. Okay, so path, query, cookie inherit from param, and that's good to know. So saying, but remember when you import query, path, and cookie and others from FastAPI, those are actually functions that return special classes. Like I've just explained to you, they are simply functions. Query is a function that returns the query class, an instance of the query class. Path is a function that returns an instance of the path class. Cookie is a function, that returns an instance of the cookie class. And they all inherit from param. Why? They're all parameters, okay? But just different types of parameters. So we're saying inheritance and inheritance and what's the polymorphism, okay, together, okay. So they're saying to declare cookies, you need to use cookie because otherwise the parameters would be interpreted as query parameters. And actually we know this, that if you don't do anything, okay, if I just left this, okay, and maybe even remove annotated, okay, like that, this by default becomes a query parameter. We know this. By default, it becomes a query parameter. So for it to become a cookie parameter, we annotate and add cookie, okay? Or do what we saw earlier in the other alternate versions. We're saying cookie like that. We say default equals to none, like that, okay? Or using annotated. So make sure you add the annotation and the metadata for cookie. Otherwise, it will be a query parameter. So I want to check out something. If I came to cookie, okay, I want to import. Okay, let's just click on cookie and see the implementation. So this is how they implemented cookie. You see, it is simply a function. Cookie is a function, okay, and they have an annotated. It's a default annotated, okay. So if I close this, maybe close this too, not to confuse you, I can just close the whole thing. So you see, cookie is a function. We see we have a function called body. We have a function called form. The others I wanted you to see. Let's import query. So if I import query, okay, then I import also path. Then I hover over it, okay. Click command for those on Unix systems or control on Windows and click. You see, query is simply a function, okay. And if we scroll carefully, I want the return type. Wow, it's pretty long. Let me try to zoom out a little bit. Have I missed my exit? Okay, you see, says returns params.query. So they are classes, okay? This is their, and if we go up, okay, yes, that's it, okay? My goal here is to show you that in the implementation, what they are saying is actually true, that query is simply a function, as simple as that. So let me continue the saying recap. Declare cookies with cookie using the same common pattern as query and path. Okay, so same thing, nothing strange, nothing simple. All right, so yeah, this makes sense to me. It's very easy to understand. So I'll go on to the next topic, which is header parameters. Okay, so yeah, today we are dealing with two topics. Okay, and again, this one also looks to be equally short. So they're saying you can define header parameters the same way you define query, path, and cookie parameters. Okay. And by now we should know that all these are sisters. Query, path, cookie are sisters. And also header is sister. Why? Because they all inherit from the what they call it, the param class. Okay. So again, I'll tell you this. Okay. These path, query, cookie are simply functions which give us the classes, okay? So let me just demonstrate for you this, for those who have just joined, okay? What they have actually in the implementation is something like this. Let me remove this too, okay? I'll remove, maybe let me just remove cookie for now. I remove all this, and just say str, okay, or int for now. That could, or none, okay? Str or none to make, for it to make sense. So assume this is what they have, something like this. They have a function called header. Okay. So for me now, I'll simply have what? An empty function. I'll say maybe pass for now. Okay. But also they have a class. Okay. I'll call it maybe header class. Okay. Just to avoid confusion. And leave it empty for now. Okay. Header class, which is empty. But this function called header returns this header class, okay? Something like this. This what kind of does this, okay? But Header also inherits from something called param, a class called param, something like that. Okay. So somewhere they have some class called param. So this just I'm giving you a general idea, okay, of the implementation. Okay. So what we actually import is this. We import the function header. So when they say import header, fast import header, when they say from FastAPI import header, this header here is actually a function, okay, which will give us an instance of the header class, which also inherits from param. So the same thing, if I do this, I can copy and say maybe query, okay, they have query, and but for course query, I'll put another class and maybe call it the query class, okay. Come on, can I be faster typing query class? And then here query return will return the query class like that. So what to import is this and header. Jahin Hassan, thank you for joining the live stream. I appreciate your comment. Says you've got real talent. Wow, I'm humbled. Thank you. Just one suggestion: improve the thumbnail to make it more clickable. Bright colors, strong emotions, and bold fonts can do wonders. Oh, that's nice. Thank you uh for the advice. I'll tell my designer. Generally, personally, me, I'm not actually good at design. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at design. But I'll give this comment to my designer. Thank you. I appreciate. Awesome. So I will, yeah, get rid of all this. This was just to give you an idea of what they were saying. So I'll go on. So we import header first of all, okay? So that's the first thing, you import header, and you know how to do that, okay? From FastAPI, import header. Then we go to the next step. They have, of course, other variants and versions. So for those with Python 3.9 plus, 3.8 plus, you can check this, okay? But I have 3.10 and I prefer doing this. But the concept is the same, okay? So what I go through here applies elsewhere. Excuse me. And if you've actually been following from the beginning, if you open here, you won't get confused. Because what changes here is the typing, okay? Which we dealt with, I think, in our first stream. Okay. I'm just thinking about what Jahid said. I don't know what I see my thumbnail has yellow. I don't know what other bright color would, and bold fonts. I don't know what bright color I need to change to, okay? To change, because I wanted to have a consistent brand. But yeah, I need to do that. For actually, if you look at this, Jahid, can you look, if you, after this video, can you look at the thumbnails for the live stream? Okay. They are kind of consistent and different from the thumbnails for the other old videos which I had. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to change to like to follow one brand using from what you're seeing on the live stream thumbnails. I'm trying to follow that. The other ones, maybe I could delete them, or probably I don't know what I'll do with them, but I want to have something consistent. But yeah, you can suggest, but I'm going to give my designer your comment. Really good. That I've been thought about it for some time. But let me concentrate, okay? So they're saying the next step is to declare header parameters. They're saying then declare the header parameters using the same structure as with path, query, and cookie. So the same thing. The thing you can define the default value as well as all the extra validation or annotation parameters. So ideally it's the same thing. So I can copy this, get back to my code and paste, okay? So same thing, okay? And post here you can have validation, okay? Like minimum length, because maybe 10. You can have stuff like maybe maximum length, equals to, I don't know, 20. Okay, depends on what you want to achieve. Okay, depends on what you want to achieve. So let's go on. So yeah, those dealing with other versions and variants, check this. Like I said, pretty much the same thing. Okay, what changes is just the typing. Like here, they're using union. Okay, when you go here, you'll find union. Okay, when you go here, you'll find maybe annotated has been removed. Even here, it has been removed. So, but the concept stays the same. So I'll go ahead. The saying technical details. So saying header is a sister class of path, query, and param. It also inherits from the same param class. I've already explained this, and yeah, it now makes very good sense to me. I hope it does to you too. If it doesn't, please, yeah, let me know in the chat, okay? If it doesn't. The thing, but remember, when you import query, path, header from and others from FastAPI, those are actually functions that return special classes, like I illustrated in VS Code a few minutes ago. They are simply functions responsible for returning special classes. So info, to declare headers, you need to use the header because otherwise the parameters will be interpreted as query parameters. This applies for all, okay? So if you want a query parameter, make sure you declare. So for example, let me remove maybe these arguments because they may not apply for all. So if I want a path parameter, I must say that I must indicate that this is a path parameter. And of course I have to import path. Let me import all, import path, then import probably query, then import body, okay? So this is what you're saying. If user agent is a path parameter, so I have to confirm, okay? Otherwise, if I don't, by default, it's a query parameter. If user agent is a body parameter, a request body parameter, I must confirm that by saying body. If it is a header, I must confirm by saying it's a header parameter, like so, inside annotated. So the metadata is the second value you put after this comma. If it's a cookie, then I import cookie like this, okay? Then I come here and change header to cookie like that. So in any case, if I don't specify whether it's a cookie, body, path, or header, by default, it will be a query parameter. And of course, if you want to add metadata for your query, still you can add query in your annotated typing, okay? In this clause, in these square brackets. And of course, you come in the parentheses and then you add the constraints, okay? So, but in this case, it's going to be a header. So I'll put that back. And like we know, all other constraints that apply to query path apply to this, to the header too. Like here we can say minimum length equals to maybe 2, okay? This applies very, very well. So they're saying automatic conversion. They're saying header has a little extra functionality on top of what path, query, and cookie provide. Most of the standard headers are separated by a hyphen character, also known as the minus symbol, okay? But a variable like user agent is invalid in Python. Yes, and that is true, okay? We cannot come here and say user dash, actually even here, okay? You can also user like that. This is wrong, okay? You see, we even get a red. You see, we're now getting issues already, okay? We're getting issues. So it can be user agent like that or user underscore agent, okay? The common snake case that we know. All right, so let's continue. By default, header will convert the parameter characters from underscore to hyphen to extract and document headers. Oh, that's nice. So FastAPI is smart enough to know that this would have been that, okay? Yeah, nice, 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 nice. I love this. Then let's continue. Just saying Also, they're saying and document and also document. Okay, we're going to look at the documentation to prove this statement. And they're saying also HTTP headers are case sensitive. So you can declare them with standard Python style known as snake case. Okay. If you're a Python developer, of course, you know what snake case is all about. Then they're saying so you can use user agent as you normally would in Python code, instead of needing to capitalize the first letters as user agent or similar. Okay, so you can, let me read this again to make sure I've understood. So you can use user agent as you normally would in Python code, instead of needing to capitalize the first letters as user agent. Oh, this is nice. So, but by the way, I read this wrongly. It is case insensitive, not case sensitive. Insensitive. So it means does not care whether it's capital or lowercase, whatever. Okay. So they're saying, this is the next one. They're saying if for some reason you need to disable automatic conversion of underscores to hyphen, set the parameters, convert underscores of header to false. Okay. So meaning we come here, okay, say comma, convert underscores, okay, we make it false. So which means by default, it is true. Okay, that's good to know. But I would prefer. Right now I have no reason why I want them to be like converted. I mean to be prevented from being converted. Okay, I don't want to disable that. I prefer the hyphens to be maintained. Okay, so when we go, so here you're just showing us that example. Okay, so then here we have variants and other versions. You can look at that, but the concept is pretty much the same. What changes again, like I've been saying from time and time again, is simply the annotation using union. Okay, and then 3.10 plus and 3.8 plus, they are showing you ways where you can work with the same thing but without using annotated, but they recommend you to use this annotated. Okay, so I'll simply close that. But before setting underscores to false, bear in mind that some HTTP proxies and servers disallow the usage of headers with underscores. Yeah. So it's a bad thing. So the safest thing to do is to use the hyphen. Okay. Using the hyphen is the safest bet. But I want to look at the documentation to see this statement. Where is it? They say and document the headers too. So let's check. I want to just prove out something. I like seeing things happen. And I think we're now reaching a stage where the topics I'm dealing with are easier to digest. So yeah, here it is. You see, it says a hyphen, but if you go to the code, it has an underscore. So FastAPI is converting this for us automatically, and we see the mean length, okay, being goes to 2. This is nice. Okay, pretty cool. Okay, so I will move on to where I was. They're saying duplicate headers. They're saying it is possible to receive duplicate header. That means the same header with multiple values. So you're saying you can define those cases using a list in a type declaration. You will receive all the values from the duplicate header as a Python list. For example, to declare a header of X token that can appear more than once, you can write, let us see. Okay, yeah. So what is changing is just simply this saying list. Okay, using list break. So if I come here, instead of receiving one to receive I mean duplicates, they say simply annotate it, okay, with the list annotation, and say instead of str alone, you say list, okay, like that. So str is in square brackets, meaning we're expecting a list of strings or nothing, and by default we're getting nothing, which means it is optional. It's not a must to send headers, the user agent header. Okay, so here you can get duplicates. Okay, very simple to understand. Initially here, like this, user agent will only be one value. you receive one, you expect one value. Once you say, give me a list of strings, so you can get a list of user agent headers, and you might have duplicates. Okay. So yeah, so they think it's possible to receive duplicates. That means the same header with multiple values. And to do that, we use the list type declaration. So they're saying if you communicate with that path operation, sending two HTTP headers like X token, foo, X token, bar. Okay, and in this case, you get it is X token here. Okay, with an underscore, but what you get will be with a hyphen. Take note of that. So they're saying the response would be something like X token values, bar, and foo. Of course, expected. Okay, yeah, because we expect JSON, we expect that it will be JSON string structured like this with a value called X token values, a key I mean, but the value is a list, okay, because of this. Pretty cool. Of course, they have a recap saying declare headers with header using the same common pattern as query, path, and cookie. And they're saying don't worry about underscores in your variables. FastAPI will take care of them. Very easy, very simple. I've loved this. Short, quick. So headers, cookies, query, path, yeah. So what are they? Header, cookie, which we've learned today, then query and path. Those four follow the same pattern. Okay. And when we're working with underscores because headers always have underscores. Okay. We don't have to worry about that. Okay. I mean, not underscores. Headers always have hyphens. Okay. They always have a hyphen. So in our code, we don't have to worry about our variable be having a hyphen, because having a hyphen in your code is invalid Python code. So we can use underscores, and FastAPI will take care of converting. Kudos, the guys who made FastAPI. All right, so yeah, that's it for today. Thank you again, Jahid, for the good advice. I'm going to share it with my designer, and I see how they can do better. Now, next up, we just need to deal with other things. So tomorrow we shall look at two more things, okay? Cookie parameter models, header parameter models, okay? And we know how parameter models are very important, like we saw with the path and query, okay? Yeah, slowly, baby steps, moving slowly, but we're gaining knowledge. And soon we'll be into things like databases and so on. I feel like on Saturday I need to have two streams. I know sometimes starting to think I need to have longer streams going forward. But probably those will happen when I'm now building things. Okay. But for now, let's go on topic by topic. So we looked at these two. Tomorrow we shall tackle these two. Okay. I mean these two. Okay. And then we go to that. Yeah, step by step. And who knows, by the end of the month, I'll be done. So thank you for watching. Yeah, share this and let's grow as a community. All right. Talk to you soon.